All right, welcome back everyone to Divine Alignment. I am so excited because today I am joined with a very special guest, Alana, and she is a spiritual psychotherapist, intuitive, and transformational coach. She has a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and Wellness from the University of Denver, a master's in transpersonal psychology from Naropa University, and a somatic trauma specialist certification from Trauma Dynamics of Boulder, Colorado. Alana has knowledge and expertise to share on some of today's most timely personal development topics, and I'm sure we will dive into all of that. And so, Alana, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And just one little correction, love you say my name, Alana.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad I meant to ask you that at the beginning, but thank you. It's Alana. So
No
welcome
worries.
everyone.
Yeah.
That's what happens when we meet over the interwebs, and
I know.
pros and cons, right? But amazing. Well, we were talking about before. I think this is such a cool place to start because Alana went to Boulder in Colorado, which is so cool because that's where I got my undergrad, was from CU. And it's so funny because had I been in my spiritual awakening, I most definitely would have gone to Naropa, but I had friends from Naropa. So I just think it's so cool that we get to connect now. But now Alana is living in Bali. And I just think that's amazing. So, Alana, before we dive in, I just would love to ask you a couple questions just so we can get to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear just like a little bit about your morning routine. Those are my favorites.
Oh my gosh, I love answering this question. My routine is it's pretty thorough. As this is my life's work, to be in a place of kind of divine alignment, as your podcast is named. So in the morning, I actually really come from this lineage of Kundalini yoga, and because I went to Naropa, quite a stoic Shambhala type meditation, and that, when I was younger, I did Reiki meditations in the morning. I did a Kuan Yin 2-hour long practice with sound and light. And it's always been an evolution. And what I've realized in my kind of later years, as I got more and more into the principles and the, kind of flowing essence of the divine feminine, I realized that these structured practices had a place in my life for quite some time. And the structure is in my body, and it is there as a really solid foundation after years. But now I like to open up the day with a really kind of like intuitive flow. So I always do breath work to begin. Breath work just gets me there. It's just, if your mind is active, if there's an emotion that needs to kind of like flow through you, breath work is just a really kind of straight shot of breaking through any holding. So there's breath work, and then it's usually a combination of embodied movement, dance, flow, shaking, and deep meditation. But my meditation kind of comes from these states of like getting ecstatic first, and getting ecstatic through movement, getting my energy to rise, and flowing with that. And it is like, I wish I could say it's this and this, but now it's because I have such a broad range of tools. It's like what's present in the moment that wants to come through. Maybe I'm drumming, maybe I'm singing and sounding and toning, maybe I'm playing my crystal bowl. It's very kind of the wild feminine in the morning, and then I like to start out some mornings with jade egg practices too, get the Kundalini rising, clear my field. I combine that with breath work. So it's fun, and it's different. It's different every day now. And Kundalini is always home base. always home based. So there's always some elements of Kundalini in my morning practice, because that really has it is my deep foundation of a lineage that I fell in love with, and just helped me build my energetic container, let's say, for so many years. So yeah, there's always some elements of that. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love there's so much in there, and I love just like the free flowing aspect, but also like I just think I love hearing about all of the different modalities people utilize. And I think that there are so many beautiful tools that you have at your disposal to tap into, which I'm sure we'll talk about more. Yeah, the Kundalini, I mean, activating that energy first thing in the morning, I think is such a powerful start to our day. And
Really.
I love that. I love that so much. So I would also love to know if you're into, of course, any astrology or human design info.
Oh, I dabble. It's like I know my signs. What I'm really into is the gene keys.
Oh my gosh, me
So
too. I love it.
yeah, so that takes more precedence. I've studied gene keys now for about 7 years. And I listen to Richard Rudd almost every day. So it has, that match with human design in a little bit. I'm a generator. Okay. Astrologically, I'm a Libra on the cusp of Scorpio, and I have about 5 planets in Scorpio, and a Cancer ascending. So it makes a very sensitive and deep human
Oh,
who also
beautiful.
loves balance and things like that. So yeah, it's like I like reading about it. My knowledge of it is kind of like what I take in through other people's vast knowledge. What I like to read about it. Yeah, but gene keys is a base for me for sure.
Wow. Okay, that's beautiful. And gene keys, and it's like that's not really something I could ever like. What are your gene keys? Because first of all, I don't think enough people are into it, and it's like that in and of itself would be like books and podcasts of like it is
Yeah.
just such. I have not been into it for that long. Only a few years for me, but very intensely over the past like I would say year or so. It
Amazing.
has just, oh my gosh, completely shifted me in so many ways. I actually just finished the Pearl retreat, and
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yes.
I haven't done that was my first retreat.
Great. Yeah,
And
they're
I want to,
wonderful.
yeah, just so Richard is just such a beautiful human being.
He is. He is so
And
is, yeah.
yeah, so that's and I just feel like people who are into gene keys are just the amount of awareness that you gain and perspective on yourself and
Yeah.
humanity is just truly like nothing else. So that's I feel like we can talk about that off camera for forever. And lastly, I would just love to hear about any um what you're learning about right now. What is a top of mind? What do you like diving into? And I mean, especially as as spiritual people, I feel like there's so many new realms to explore. So I'd love to hear what that is for you. And it doesn't have to be spiritual either.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right now, honestly, what I've been into, I've done so much studying. I'm quite intellectually oriented, so I love learning. I have a bazillion certificates and all the education piece, and I love the experiences as well. And what I've learned at this point in my life, anyway, from the integration of all the knowledge and my teachings, and is like I learned from just transmissions from masters. And as of late, I'm working with a high priest in Bali and working on moving into just merging more with my higher self. So honestly, it's more like trans-channeling states, and being guided by a really masterful priest here. And that has been some of the just like it's so profound what we can do with when you have the knowledge and you have the structure and you've studied all this mental stuff for years, and it's like letting go and now really truly merging with the field and getting connected directly with the energies that are meant for you to work with in this lifetime, and allowing that energy to merge more and more. So now you are becoming your higher self more and more, right? You're in the embodiment of the higher self. So it's like walking that path. There's like always a next level. There's always another level. Like it was like 10 years ago, I was like, oh, I got it figured out. I'm doing great. Like I'm totally enlightened, and then it's just like the most humbling journey you've ever had. You just get whacked with like, oh girl, nothing. So now I'm like, I know nothing. I literally have no idea what is going on, but I go towards the things that allow me to feel more expanded in my own being more of the time, so like holding and maintaining these states of unity consciousness and feelings of expansion, not only just because you're doing a lot of meditation or whatever, but like honestly, like really fine tuning and working with the quantum energy that's coming through and knowing how to work with that quantum energy. So I think last year I started really, 2 years ago, maybe I started really diving into more like quantum education, working with the quantum, activating grids, timelines, like all these kind of words that we use that sound a little bit new agey, but they're actually really deep focused tools of understanding how to kind of work with our own energy and work with higher realm energy and different frequencies, and allow those to transmute in our bodies and create something in our physical realities. But it's all of it is just how can you be more life on purpose? How can you be in this place of like service and in your mission? And what does that mean? So for me, I've been really deep exploring what that truly means. What is the truth of being in service and being in mission, on mission? And you have to give up a really huge part of you that felt like it had any grip in another reality, in another kind of conditioned way that we thought we would find happiness, a way that our family approved of what we did. And sometimes I am looking at myself now and I feel so normal. It's all so normal, and it's great, and I can talk to anybody and be super relatable, because it is relatable if you can just explain it in a certain way. But yeah, that's where my world is there now, just kind of receiving transmissions from someone who's a beautiful energy conduit that allows me to access and fine tune the energies that I'm working with and be in that presence more and more. I'm certainly in, human Alana all the time, a lot of the time, but it's just kind of like our soul mission is to be more of that I don't like to say higher frequency, but like a more merged with like our soul signature, I guess.
That's so beautiful. And really that's our natural state, right? We just so often forget and go through so much programming and conditioning that leads us to believe otherwise. That's so beautiful. And I really want to just like, you brought up so much in there, like so many nuggets. I was like pinning, because I want to ask you about so much of this. And I think that a really great place to start, well, first of all, ever since the Pearl Retreat, that's something too that I ask every single day from Richard Rudd is, how can I be of the greatest service to the whole? How can I be of the greatest service to the whole? And when you ask that question and really, really sit with it, it can lead you to it opens up portals and timelines that you didn't see before, right? And I really agree with you as well, that I think that there are all of these new agey terms of like hopping timelines and accessing the quantum and all of this. But like, I think if we can truly tap into these frequencies and understand them at a deeper level, and work with these energies that are available to us, right? Like, so much magic is available to us. And but the embodiment piece, I really, really want to start there. I really want to start there because, you know, I was someone who talked about this same kind of thing. I talked about this like years ago, and looking back now, I'm like, oh, like you were so cute. Like,
Oh, they're there.
yeah, yeah, totally. And I'm also like, now I embrace that I know absolutely nothing. And it's a way more fun place to be than to try and know know anything. But I would love to hear about your journey of embodiment and how it's looked for you, and you know what tools you can offer listeners, because you know it's so funny because I think like looking back at my life and my journey, like I would read like the copy about something and I'd be like, oh, like this sounds so good. But then I always remember like showing up and I would be like, but this person presents very differently than their copy perhaps made them out to be. And so I think a lot of people
Yeah.
are like talking the talk, but not walking the walk. And so I love to hear about what people actually do. Cause so now I'm very much like, just let me see a person, let me see their energy and in this different way. How are they showing up? Who are they being? Because that's a completely different thing, right? And so I would love to hear about your journey and what this looks like for you and these tools. And obviously, it's not an overnight thing, but how you've cultivated this embodiment, which is obviously a never
Yeah.
ending
I mean,
practice as well.
yeah, it is for sure. And you go deeper and deeper, but this is the topic that I speak upon the most because this is the bulk of my work. Embodiment of, you know, our true self, our authentic self. And, you know, again, like the marketing around spirituality is it's funny. It's almost like you know, you just have to kind of be able to really tune into what's intuitive for you and feel if there's a resonance. But the joke is we forgot how to be intuitive. You know, no one taught us how to be intuitive. And when I was younger, I had like just, you know, I just had a propensity for spirituality. I wanted to know anything that could allow me to see beyond the veil. And I started the journey very young. I think when I was 15, I would now look back and say I had my first awakening at a kid-run retreat that was a Episcopalian orientation. And from there, I started studying Reiki, and I found I had a teacher in high school that I worked with, a counselor in high school, and she was amazing. She was a therapist, a art therapist, centre. Like she let me do all these projects with her, and I started kind of just always loving psychology and healing, and I had a model for that. You know, at home I didn't have a model for that. I went to a school, like an experiential high school for the last 2 years of my high school. So I found these mentors that were like little drops of grace in my life that just allowed me to go, this way, this is possible. Like, okay, you know, and I'd kind of float over there. Um, and I had some challenges at the beginning. You know, I had my life. It was, you know, the culmination of coming out of high school and coming into womanhood, realizing who I was, realizing how I grew up, and losing my father, having an abusive relationship. Like these are all kind of things that got melded into like those college-ish years. And just trying to define myself in a world as a very sensitive being that didn't have a contextual way to support that. It didn't have too much education on spirituality or anything like that. So again, I was just kind of like graced with another mentor right in college as I was having a really hard time. And she was one of the, you know, greatest healers I've ever seen. She's still my therapist, and she she's been with me now for like over 20 years. But there were just these healers, these women that were healers, that were doing work that's not just therapy. They showed up as therapists in my life, and they were, showing me this whole other realm and world, and how to work with, spirit and intuition. And I just, it was like the seeds were planted, and I just kept moving in that direction. But after my father died, he died in an accident. It was very tragic. And he was, I was, he was just like one of the loves of my life. He was just such an amazing man. And to lose him at a young age, I, had this trajectory of just sort of going into my little, like, fast-paced party life in Aspen, Colorado. I was skiing all the time. I was a massage therapist, and I had my spiritual practice on the side. But for many years, it was like I just went through the motions. I didn't realize, the impact of such a trauma for me. And that was, a big trauma for me to lose my father. So years later, I kind of went number, and like my unhappiness grew. It was like I was feeling stuck in my relationship. I was in a 6-year relationship, and I just was feeling like trapped. He would want to get married, and I'd have a panic attack. I was like, that's probably not a good response, And I just knew that there was I was hungry for something else, just it's like that depth of lonely that you can't describe, because you don't know it's happening. You have all the friends, you have all the people around you. It's this inner blind spot, that we can't name, but it works, and it makes our choices for us. And it added to more like just kind of numbing agents rather than, and distracting things, instead of like real, true, like doing the work. And then I had always wanted to go to Naropa, and broke up with my partner, went to Naropa. I had gone to Burning Man for the first time. I was like 24 years old or something. And this was quite a while back, like 20 years ago or something, not 20, maybe 15 years ago. And I had this epiphany, like I really needed to change. Like something needed to shift. So I'm not a subtle person at times, so it was like, I broke up with my boyfriend. I applied for grad school, and I ended up at Naropa, just having this incredible and healing crisis, where it was, my time to really, with all the support. I couldn't have called in a more epic team of people, where I was doing therapy literally every day on myself, on others, talking about it, getting this Buddhist education. And I finally cracked. And with the transition out of my relationship, I realized I had never really grieved my father. And I had anxiety for months, like 3 months. I just had insomnia, anxiety, and I had to really shatter in order to, put all the pieces back together. And again, I was at Naropa, like, wow, what a gift. So I learned how to put those pieces back together in a very thorough, deep way, based off of principles and, spirituality that aligned with the values that I knew were possible. Like I knew it in my heart that we could be aligned with this greater divine love. And I just didn't, have the tools to do that. So through that education and my own experience, I opened my private practice, and I became a Kundalini yoga teacher, a Tantra teacher, a breathwork teacher. It was like each piece would just unfold at the right amount of time, because I had specialized in trauma release as well. So doing somatic experiencing, you learn the depth of how our cycles, our stress cycles, our trauma cycles are stored in our body, and the frozen energy that is there. The first gene key is I have in my chart, and it's entropy to beauty. In entropy, the description of entropy is numbness. Like rare is the human that knows that they're numb, is what Richard Rudd says. And this was why I studied this gene key. And I was like, numb? I'm not numb. I'm vibrant. I'm, juicy. I feel myself. And then, again, years later, I look back and I'm like, oh, baby, you had no idea how numb you were. And you're a pretty switched on person. So I started seeing too, the amount that we work with numbness, the amount that we are okay with where we're at out of comfort and safety. And that most people, I mean, probably 90% of my clients, probably 97% of my clients, awesome, amazing, switched on people, that's who's attracted to working with me. They are also dealing with this unconscious numbness, and they don't know how numb they are. They don't know how much love and safety and security they actually need to start sourcing in their body. So when I did that, and through a lot of trauma release work and combining breath work with Kundalini, and I take Tantra practices, in Tantra, let's take away any of the maybe superficial, is that what I'm trying to, stereotypical kind of like pictures that you see. Like, I use this as a deep self meditation to bring me into union with the masculine and feminine within myself. And, it's like a practice that brings inner union and really melting the what am I trying to say? The wall between our masculine and feminine side, the hardened masculine, the hardened feminine, the wounded place that we come from in the masculine and feminine, and like redefining what is it to be in my divine feminine, my divine masculine, and reparent myself from that place. So the journey was really thick and juicy in my 30s. And I just kept going deeper and deeper into seeing and trying out in my therapy practice, because I had I had clients all the time I could work with and see what really worked. And I was watching people and I'm like, I cannot do this anymore without the embodiment pieces, and I really wanted to be in more of this place of like, I let them heal through the relationship that we have. Not that I have this one tool and you're going to think about your thoughts different and go off and go ahead, but can I be the frequency of a healing presence that maybe they've never felt before? How much can I expand into the most safe, resilient nervous system that can be possible in my body? So that's, of course, for me, but if my work is this work, then I better be extremely in integrity and always working on my shadow and blind spots. And I've always had my own therapist, my own coaches, my own, team that can call out my stuff and my blind spots. But if you're doing mental work, then it's great. That's the mental game is the way that, we need the mental to unlock, to then almost give permission to the tools and the energies to work on the physical body. Because if our mental isn't on board and it's kind of like, well, this is bullshit, but give me some Reiki, fuck, it's not going to work, right? Like, none of that's going to work. You need your mind to loosen its grip, loosen the cerebral control that it has, this cortical control, this primal brain that's got its hairs up on its back, and it's always perceiving threat, or it's always like hyper vigilant, looking out for something that's unsafe, even if it's just this emotional or subtle thing, looking to say, am I going to get hurt again? We have to actually turn that response way, way down. And these are the methods and the modalities that I work with in my programs and with my clients, and so that we're turning the volume down on those responses. And then the most important thing, which is what, again, my own journey taught me, is that you have to know how to resource yourself in infinite, exuberant, ecstatic love. You have to go on a journey that brings you to knowing and merging with and becoming the most exalted form of love that you have ever known, right? That is just as much a part of the healing journey as it is to deal and work with the toxic, the shadow, the places that you struggled, and we deprogram those. But you can't deprogram something until you have something else that your body knows and trusts that you have built in, right? So I'm going to say it this way. Your body will not let go of a defense mechanism if you haven't given it a replacement. The body's too smart for that, right? It's not going to leave you high and dry with no defenses. But your defense mechanism, and I say that in air quotes, needs to be love and safety and trust. And when you have a foundation of trust and safety, then all the defense mechanisms they loosen their grip, they take a deep breath, and they're like, I don't have to work so hard. Great. Like, so the first, I have a women's program called Radiance Rising, and I work with a group, like groups, and I also work with private containers with men and women. And the first thing that we do is an entire month module with guided video and audios that take you through a series of how to resource in love again, how to build this foundation. We use breathwork, visualizations, meditation, felt sense. You have to know how to feel again. That's the premise and the basis of it all is, do you actually feel the sensations in your body? Do you know how to do that? Like, these are the nuts and bolts of becoming an emotionally intelligent, masterful human being. And if you don't have that mastery, then you're kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall, like hoping your external circumstances, allow you to feel good on the inside. And that will maybe last a little bit for some time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it lasts for 5 minutes, sometimes it lasts for a year, right? But we don't want to have that external, like getting our sensation of safety from external things, money, house, like the experience, relationships, whatever it is. Like, you have to source from this fountain of love which flows endlessly from your own body. And again, that might sound lofty, but there's like, this is my jam, right? This is my mastery, is like, there's skills and tools to do that, and they may not be what you've learned before, right? They may not be what you think. So yeah, I'll take a breath and
No, that's so beautiful. There's so much wisdom there and everything that you shared. And I see, I just see so many parallels, and so I resonate with so much that you're saying. And I think for myself, I saw for so long how I really, really tried to just use my mind, just and you'll get somewhere. You will make progress, but it
Right.
isn't until we bring in the body and really allow our body to release the trauma that we may have released from the mind, right? And I would love to hear about some of your, have you cultivated or created your own TRE and trauma release exercises, or like what would be some things that you could share with people that are like, I recognize that I have these traumas in my body. Like, how do I get them out? How do I release them?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to give you a link at the end of the podcast, and it's to one of my breathwork activations. So one of the ways that I help guide people who have not worked with me before, who are not like fully in a program, is like I have guided audios around how to use breathwork as a daily practice, so that you can start to, this one I have is de-armoring the heart. So getting, our heart center, again, if we look at us from an energetic perspective, is basically like the master key. And when you can start to, what I call de-armor the heart, so we're taking out the, kind of melting the armor that we've built around our heart, then energy flows more freely through our whole system. And so we want kind of an open, free, resilient energy system in which breath and life energy and prana can flow, because then that breath can move into the places where we hold stress responses, trauma responses. So this, in this breath work, it's like, how do we, again, just go and use concentration, breath, and like our own intention, and then allowing the breath work to get us out of our mind, right? So the mind can get, quieted down, calmed down, and then your body can kind of start to move into that right-brained place where our emotions lie. And maybe you get to feel a little bit more. And then I kind of guide you into how do you kind of track those sensations and follow them and feel them and move with them, and start to just sensitize yourself. So I think one of the best tools, it's not something that you can maybe like go and grab a book on, but you need to learn what the felt sense is, right? So it's like this space between it's emotion, it's sensation, it's a combination of intuition. It's this, like ability to track your feeling from within, and not say to yourself, it's like, how do you feel? I feel sad. How do you know you feel sad? Okay, well, there's a sensation of like welling up, or like a fullness in my heart. There's a tear coming from my eye. There's this feeling of like almost like a weeping willow in my lungs. Sometimes we get images or sensations or words that come when we tune in to the body space. Instead of, how do you feel? I feel sad. I think I'm sad because, this thing, I lost this thing, and it's so interesting when I ask that question to people, it's like, what is the true feeling? And they're like, I think. They answer with, I think I feel, which means you're not in your feeling, you're thinking, you're in your mind, and how often do we answer from our mind with an evaluation of what we think should be happening, instead of actually like tuning into what is happening. So I know that sounds like maybe a little less tangible, but you can start to study the felt sense. And again, I have guided audios. I have free breathwork workshops that you can take as well, and those are going to allow you to kind of get an education on what that is. And then the breathwork helps you feel it at a it's sort of like amplified level. Like breathwork amplifies your sensations, so it's easier to get a sense of like a feeling, and kind of start to connect that dot within you. But for in general, yes, like go towards things that allow your body to sound and move. And when you connect sound and movement and breath to a feeling, then you are actually feeling a feeling, right? Then you are catharting with a feeling, right? So it's one of those things. It's like, do you like to dance? Do you like to move your body? A part of my programs, we learn how to cathart. We learn how to consciously move energy and emotion through the body in a sacred way, not a scary way, not a way that shuts you down or overwhelms your system, but in a way that allows you to kind of find your own flow with your own expression, so that you feel like you are in control of the emotional response, or the emotional like catharsis. So yeah, I really feel like knowing how to feel, knowing how to work with emotion is the base foundation for anyone's ascension or growth process. It has to start there. It starts with the body, in the body, with this human life that you have before you go skipping timelines and working with ancestors and different quantum realities. You really want to start with this reality that we're in right now, in this human body. And when we do that trauma release and that freedom, it's like, take the word trauma out of it. Just, we are creating spaciousness in the body so that you can hold more light. But in order to hold more light, you really need to dump the unconscious mind, the programs, the patterns. We need to identify what the blocks are, what the distorted beliefs of love that are functioning in your body, where your perceptions distorted, right? And we all have distorted beliefs. And then from there, we work with them, we move them out of the body, and then we start to talk about, working with our ancestors and transmuting energies for other people. Even this, it's like coming back to what you were saying before. If this is knowledge that you're holding in your mind, and you start to work with other people, it's gonna be let's just say a limited transmission, because you're not transmitting the energy, the template of, I have done this, I've walked these steps before you, so you can now walk behind me. And I like this kind of this way of seeing things. It's like there'll always be somebody in a higher level of consciousness than I am, and there'll always be someone in a let's say lower consciousness. They haven't gone there yet. But if the person in front of me keeps working on themselves and walking the path and expanding, then I get to breathe into that space. I get to walk forward. So I'm doing that work so that people behind me can keep, walking that path. And we walk this, kind of infinite vortex of the lineage of wisdom that we're all meant to pass on to each other, but we pass it on through our bodies, through nature, through the earth. It's not coming from a book. And you can see people, so many people have read the book, or they're good at talking about it. And then you get to that workshop and you're like, God, this doesn't really resonate. Like they had a good talk, but I don't want to learn from anybody who has not done the embodiment work. And I really like to, let listeners know that you want to feel like someone has embodied what they are talking about. Someone who's talking about abundance and they have an abundance course, don't take that course unless they are rich ass bitches, right? Like see someone who has walked the walk in an integral way, in a heart-centered integral way, someone that you admire, that you'd like to learn from, but make sure they know what they're talking about, or you're wasting your time and money. You can read books too, right? And you want to be with teachers who are embodied, teachers who have taken the time, done the work. And those aren't always the teachers that are bright and sparkly on Instagram, or it's like they're the low-hanging fruit. Sometimes you have to really just keep asking the universe for the teacher that's right for you and allow that to come to you. So you probably have experiences with that too.
Oh my gosh, 110%. There's so much there. And yeah, something else that you spoke to that I have seen in my own practice as well is so many people, it's like these buzzwords become so popular about like past lives and stuff. And I had so many people for a while saying like, can we do past life regression? I want to heal my past lives. And I'm always saying like, I'm happy to do past life stuff, but I think we have enough in this lifetime to focus on first. And it's like people will be like, it's like their first hypnotherapy session with me, and they're like, can we do my past lives? And I'm like, we need to start, like, there's some cleanup in this lifetime first, and then we can get on to the past lives and dive into that world. And oftentimes I find that if we really allow ourselves to heal in this lifetime, we actually heal the past lifetimes and our ancestral lineage and all of these things. And so I love that you brought that up. And another thing that you touched on that is so, I think, so important for people to understand and recognize, and this was something really big for me, is I didn't even realize, just like what you're speaking to, how numb I was, and how, and I'm sure I still have so far to go to realize and see how much is truly available to me. But I already am able to see how much I was suppressing and unintentionally. And I see this with a lot of my clients as well, where you know, these traumas and experiences and all of these places where we don't even allow ourselves to feel. And it's like this mechanism, this innate beautiful mechanism within us just shuts off. And so, and it's not out of like, you know, malice or like consciously doing it, but we truly like at one time or another it felt safer to not feel, and then that becomes our norm. And so I'm really excited. We'll put that in the show notes for, I'm gonna do it too. Your practice,
Yeah,
that sounds
awesome.
so powerful.
Awesome. Yeah,
And
we call it, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, really quick, we call it like the trap door of the
Yes.
unconscious, because we can't freaking open the door. We don't know. We just are who we are. We are being the way that we're being. And what I love watching is like, as you know, women, men go through the program that I created, they come out and being like, I had no idea that I could feel this much love, like this much love for myself, for humanity, for, you know, my partner. I didn't realize I didn't know what I didn't know. So it's hard to describe that, you know, what for people who are kind of going along, you know, and feeling pretty good. It's like, well, we've got the next door to open for you, but we've got to go through that trap door of the unconscious mind and see what's in there. And those are why I use expanded states of consciousness. I wrote, that's like in my description of my work, expanded states of consciousness are essentially altered states of consciousness. And the way that we access the unconscious mind is through these altered states of consciousness, because we need to shut off the cortical control in our brain, the one that's analyzing and thinking, and it doesn't allow you to get to what's behind the door. So whenever we're in an altered state, through meditation, through breath work, through tantric practices, through Kundalini yoga, right? That cortical control is turned off, or at least turned way down, so that the dream space, the liminal space, the unconscious mind can be accessed. And the beauty with these kind of lighter ways or more integratable ways of using expanded or altered states of consciousness is that the unconscious just pops up the next thing that you're meant to work on. Like, we are freaking brilliant. Our brains, our bodies are, I mean, like, they're magnificent. And they will give you the direct little program, the next memory, the next sensation, the next physical body pain that you need to work on in order to get to your next place of integration and expansion. So again, I just wanted to kind of give a little caveat and explanation. You know, using altered states of consciousness is super, super important, done with guidance in a in a way that you are really masterful at working with it and being guided through that. So yeah, again, this is why the power of breath work has really shifted and shaped my programs, because we can get to altered states so easily. But yes, this
Yeah,
is
I
what
could
we need to do, get into that trap door, right?
totally, and I couldn't agree more. And it's not something we consciously do, but I love that you are giving people these beautiful tools to be able to open that trap door. And you know, and everyone will find what it is for them. And I love that you also mentioned like the universe is going to plant for us these little breadcrumbs along the way, right? I love that you brought that up because you know, it's an act of trust. It's an act of trust to go here. And I know that anyone listening to this, like you're you're open and you are willing to do that type of work, because you wouldn't have drawn this to you. And but it's also about showing up when the universe does present it to you, and allowing yourself to be led and follow. And really it takes such deep trust in your own path and your own wisdom, and anchoring into who all of these signs and what you know is possible for you. Because I mean, like, you are just such a wonderful and beautiful example to see, like, what is possible. Like you are embodying what you're doing, and like I can see that and feel that from you. So with that, Alana, I would love to hear, where can people stay connected with you? What are your links? And I'll put all of that in the show notes. But yeah, how can we stay connected with you?
Yeah, I mean, just getting a little taste of me and my work. You can follow me on Instagram. Facebook, I'm not so much on, but my newsletter is kind of the jam where where I write a lot and give some offerings and free meditations. And like I said, I'll give you the de-armoring the heart meditation so people can have a resource and a little sip into what it's like to use breath work and hear that kind of guidance on a daily basis. And yeah, and then my programs, my website and my programs are just the love of my life. I work mostly with women because I've been focusing so much on, the harmonization of needing to awaken the divine feminine on this earth plane at this time. And I really feel like women need to remember who they are first, and as a core essence of who they are, to come and truly meet what feminine means to them in a healthy way, and balance that with a healthy masculine. I do work with men as well. Actually, I have all men in my container right now, which is so funny, but it's so beautiful, because I think the men are awakening and they don't know where to go. They don't have like as many programs and circles and therapists as women have, so it's really beautiful to see the men that are funneling into the containers. So yeah, that's where you find me and learn a little bit more about my work, mostly website, and getting on my email list is just kind of fun, I think. I think anyway.
I love it. Well, everyone go follow along, and I'm really excited to check out as well more of all of the beautiful work that you are doing. And I couldn't agree more. The men are waking up, and it is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So anyways, thank you so much, Alana. It has been such a beautiful opportunity to connect with you. And I am so, so grateful that our paths crossed.
Yeah, thank you so much, love. And I'm so happy to see you doing your work in the world as well.
Thank you.